So before we look at slides, let me just take a step back and give you a little bit of presentation skill stuff that I think will really help, because it certainly helps me in 27 years of speaking professionally. So before you prepare a talk, I would really advise you not to go to PowerPoint. Don't go to your slide software first, because the problem is once you do that, it ends up kind of making you do it the way that it wants you to do it. It's just a machine, it's just a piece of software, it shouldn't have that much power. So what you should do is really prepare your talk away from the computer. I know, radical, isn't it? But it really, really works. So the first thing is get to the core of your message. You might be presenting for 5 minutes, or you might be presenting for, say, 3 hours and doing a half-day workshop or something like that. But it's important to get to the core of your message. So what you must do is decide what's the one thing that you want people to walk away with. Maybe it's 1, 2, maybe it's 3 things. But actually you need to get to the core. So if you just start planning, what you'll do is you'll just write down everything that you know about a subject. And that's why death by PowerPoint kicks in. You don't want that. What you want to know is, what's the one thing I want them to walk away with? And I'd advise you to use a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard here in my office. And if you haven't got a whiteboard, then just get like an A3 sketch pad. You can get them in the pound shop. I'm not an expert, but they'll cost you about £1. All right, that's the greatest. All my tips are like from the pound shop. Okay, post-it notes, marker pens, and get yourself a very simple A3 sketch pad. So it looks something like that. So you put your title in the middle, and basically you just write on the outside what you want to say. And just let that happen. Maybe you've got a bit of time, and what happens is you'll find that over time your brain will keep giving you ideas. So just let the core of the message sink in. Put your title in the middle on a flip chart or whiteboard, or just on a pad like this, and just allow that whole process to start happening. And then what you do is you put all those little ideas onto a post-it note, available from the pound shop. Put them onto a post-it note, scribble down with a marker pen. Now it's important to use a marker pen and not a biro, because a biro, you could put a lot of information on with a biro on a post-it note. And you actually just want basic information, just a few words to describe that. Maybe it's some data, maybe it's a video, maybe it's a point you want to make, but use it with a marker pen. And then basically you just do a little fancy thing like I've done on here, and you just start to plan your talk. So it might end up something like this. If you're the kind of person that needs a talk, a bit of plan, a bit of structure for your talk, then this is a really helpful way of doing it. Introduction, then say 3 things about 3 things, conclusion, and you're done. Now, I don't always use this structure, but if you are someone that tends to go down a cul-de-sac while you're speaking, you tend to go off on different avenues and use whatever metaphor you want. But if you tend to disappear a bit while you're presenting, a bit of structure will help you. And then what happens is, these are movable. These are what I call chunks. So everything is a little chunk, okay? So maybe it's 3 minutes of content, and you can move these around. So you might want to decide to move them around, change the order a little bit. And also, if this is an hour, and then all of a sudden you need to do 40 minutes, then what you suddenly find out is you can remove stuff and still do 40 minutes, but keeping to the core of your message. But regarding slides, the beauty of this technique is that once you get it down to what you really want to say on the post-it notes, then these post-it notes can naturally become slides, if you want. So each one will be naturally. But if you start slides first, you might end up with 47 slides. If you do it this way, you might end up with 9, or maybe 3 or 6, or whatever. So you automatically start reducing the number of slides and bullet points by holding this little technique close to your heart when you're presenting and when you're getting ready to present. I find this really useful, and even now I use a whiteboard and post-it notes and marker pens. Even after all the years that I've been speaking, I still find it really helpful. So go to slides last, go to PowerPoint last. Use these other techniques that will really help you to prepare well, that kind of helps your brain to prepare well. And that, I find, before we even talk about slides, is really helpful and helps us to get things in the right order. So take your time. Let your preparation marinate in your brain a little bit. You know, if you've got a presentation, don't put an hour in your diary the day before. If you can, put it a couple of weeks before. Let it take time. Let it kind of sink in. Allow your brain to do the work. Then you can build your talk. And then when you're ready, you can move on and start designing slides.